Now entering Nerdist.com.
Welcome to the Nerdist Podcast. I'm Chris Hardwick. I'm here with Matt Myra and Jonah Ray.
Hello.
And theme song was by Anamanaguchi. I keep forgetting to credit them.
They're great.
You just did.
Now I have.
Anamanaguchi.
They're amazing.
Don't confuse it with onomatopoeia.
That's exactly. I asked them how to pronounce their name, and they said it's like onomatopoeia.
Oh, is that what they
Anamanaguchi.
said?
By the way, that other voice you hear talking is Mr. Drew Carey. Drew, how are you?
Good. Yay. Are you
Yay.
going to put in applause?
There's
I could.
no.
No. I got it.
Thank you. Oh, all right.
It's not gonna be like a radio show. Like, this is a little crazy crowd here, and then you hear the canned.
That was like my regular applause right there.
That was it.
Yeah.
I was telling you, I really wish we should get the applause from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, the NES game, and then just use that as the crowd noise every time
Right
the
hook.
guest is on.
Right hook.
Body blow. You want to go totally 8-bit
Yeah.
on this show, don't you?
What?
You just totally want to go 8-bit on this show.
I want our voices to be in 8-bit. I just want people to have to read what we're saying. That's all I want.
fantastic.
Jonathan Mangum, this guy I do improv with, entertained me for about 10 minutes Super Bowl weekend doing, he does impressions of 80s video games.
Nice.
That is very specific.
Yeah, like any video game noise from the 80s, from those old...
He can do it.
Yeah, he can do Nintendo machines, he can do them all.
That's incredible. Get him on the phone.
Yeah.
Do you think Michael Winslow was pissed off by that?
Yeah, what did he do? He did Pac-Man, like I can't even do it.
Is it really good, or is it like, oh, that's...
No, it sounds just like
It just
the
sounds just
machine.
like that.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone in this world. As you were showing us Second Life
Yeah,
for a
computer.
while, and the reason that I have avoided Second Life is because I feel like it will become my first life. Like, I will not do anything else.
That's part of the danger for a lot of people. For some people, it's like, well, this is really dorky, and they never go back, and they see it, and they go, what's the point? And then other people are like, oh, my God, I can create things and make things, and it doesn't take long. And
can
it's
fly
all colorful, and you
around.
can fly. And
So it just seems to me like a lot, it's just a more involved Sims, right?
oh, way more, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can literally make yourself to be anything you want, and you can buy anything you need, and, you know, there's a little bit of gambling, there's a lot of, like, sex stuff in there if you want to. If you
There
go
are
that
people
way.
making a living selling Second Life sex gear.
Yeah, I don't know if they're making zillions or anything like that, but they make money.
Yeah.
You know?
Probably not making zillions.
Yeah, they're making, like, when people make money in Second Life, most people in Second Life make, like, you know, $100 a month if they're doing something, you know, or not that much, you know, like something.
Right.
But you do it for the love. I mean, you're not going to charge when you open
I don't
up
charge
your,
anything now when I open up my thing.
You should
I
check
don't
out
want to say
it.
what it is. I don't want anybody to think it's me. I don't want anybody to know it's me. But yeah, I mean, I have I have a lot of islands, and I don't even use half of them. That's the thing. That's the problem with being rich, I guess. Just buy stuff.
You just buy an island.
Yeah, and then but I let some of my friends use them.
Are you the Nicolas Cage of Second Life, where you're buying multiple?
Yeah, I guess so. Just
Not
keep the
even
neighbors
going
away.
there.
You're going to have a Second Life accountant who's going to be like, Drew, you're broke. You can't afford this. And you're like, no, they're going to give me another house. I know it. I'm just going to buy another house.
You bought 49 fake cars this week. All right.
You work it out.
I'll just do that.
Then you
exactly
go to
what
his
we're gonna
office, and he's just on his little virtual phone. He's like,
Where's
out of
my
control.
virtual checks? I need to sign them.
You
Going
should
out
do
of
a
town.
virtual natural treasure.
You got to kick that virtual drug problem, man. You don't tell me how to virtually run my life.
There's virtual drugs you can buy in Second Life, actually.
what do they do?
Wow.
In Amsterdam, you go to Amsterdam.
course.
They have a virtual Amsterdam that's very popular and got sold at the time for like it was like really a lot of money for like $40,000 or something.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
And you can buy virtual drugs there, and like there's one. It's a mushroom, and the mushroom gets put in your right hand. So you have this giant pink mushroom that you're carrying around in your right hand while you're walking, and then it's programmed to randomly. You reach over and it's an animation, and you chew on the mushroom, and then randomly you fall down.
Oh, wow.
So
So everyone knows that you're on mushrooms when you
Yeah,
have
you have a
the
mushroom in your hand, and then you're like nibbling it, and then every once in a while you just go, boom. Like you'll be
Wow.
talking to somebody, you just fall down.
That's like the feeling of actually being on mushrooms. Is just the fact that everyone's looking at you, knowing you're on mushrooms. So it's kind of a realistic.
and you
in that
occasionally
way.
just fall down.
You just
I don't know.
occasionally fall down.
So it's really more of a prank mushroom than it is a drug because you fall
It's not
down
really
randomly.
a drug. It's just for your avatar to make him look like he's on drugs. And then
You mean to make them look cool?
Yeah,
Make
you
him
wanna
look
make
cool
it-
and older and more mature.
It's fun at a party while you're talking to somebody and you're on the mushroom and you fall down. It's really funny.
That's
And a lot of
fantastic.
LOLs get typed in.
He had the
so many
mushrooms, and most of them in Korean or Japanese.
Yeah, there's one that was an LSD one. I think it's an LSD, and you. I tried it once. It was really funny. They, your whole screen just goes, and like is taken over by this pattern of color, and you can't see anything, and all you hear is like. Like that, this weird sound, and it takes place for like 10-15 seconds and you don't know where the hell you are or what's happening.
I feel like I would have the same experience in Second Life that I have in real life, which is I would take some sort of virtual drug, and then I would have to convince myself that I don't have to focus on keeping my heart beating, which is what always happened to me. Like the couple times that I smoked pot in my life, I was
Dude.
like, if I don't concentrate on my heart, it's going to stop. The same thing would happen in Second
All
Life.
you have to do, dude, is log out.
That's all you got to do? Damn it.
Pull the plug.
I don't understand.
You just got to log out. And
No,
log
I'm
back
connected,
in,
man. If my avatar dies, I die. If
Yeah,
he
like-
goes to sleep, I die.
What happened to virtual reality headsets? I really thought they were going to make it by now.
You know,
thought
like
we'd all
Lawnmower
have them.
Man stuff?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
just watched Lawnmower Man the other night. P.S. doesn't hold up. And I think it's going to hold up. Doesn't hold up.
Dobie.
And yeah, it did not, we never had the full immersion.
Really thought
virtual.
it would happen. We would be sleeping with virtual
It's because
women.
of the limitations of Wi-Fi.
That's really all it's keeping us
Well,
back.
as soon as AT&T gets that 4G network going.
Yeah, the 4G network will help, and if you have like a little, what do they call them, doggle that you have to like plug in,
Yeah.
that
booster,
goes
yeah.
into like your regular internet.
Yeah.
Instead of using the Wi-Fi, that's so much better. Like for Second Life, you really need that.
Yeah, you do.
Go.
So that everything renders quickly. And
Yeah, that's the problem.
And
It's
I just-
processor speed.
I think, just because
like we could have it.
I think it's good. I
We
think
can have it. Just need it.
AT&T
Imagine the
should
guys
just,
in NASA's Second Life. They must have such a better experience with those
They
supercomputers.
do. They probably don't have any leg at all, and they probably never crash.
It's quick
So-
to JPL.
So because you
IBM has like 20 islands on there.
don't really have to walk around in Second Life. You could fly. You could really just be a stump and get
could
around in
teleport.
Second Life fine.
Yeah, there's people that live as like crazy things in Second Life, and I wouldn't imagine if someone was a stump, I wouldn't even be surprised. Like, there's so many. It's like, what could you do in Second Life that would shock people? And the answer is nothing
At all.
Like there's no crazy costume you could wear. There's no crazy appearance you could come up with, where anybody would go. Like, oh my God, they would just go, hey, that's pretty cool. And like, where'd you get that?
What if you formed a lasting relationship with a real human?
That'd
be
that
shocking.
does not compute. Does not compute.
There was an article in the Wall Street Journal a few years ago. You can look it up. It's probably a pretty easy Google search, like Wall Street Journal Second Life or something. Probably the only Second Life article I ever had. But
No, they have a whole section now.
There's
it was
a billion articles.
some guy who was in his 50s or late 40s, and he, had a little bit of gray in his beard and stuff. And he was into Second Life, and he had nightclubs, and he had like strippers working for him, and dancers, and a staff. And he was building nightclubs, and he is like a little entrepreneur in Second Life. And he met somebody in Second Life, another avatar, and according to the article, like he said stuff like, she really gets me and understands me. And they got married in Second Life. They had a wedding ceremony in Second Life, the two avatars. Wedding's actually a big business in Second Life. So they had a little marriage ceremony. But the problem is he's married in real life
Ah,
to
yes.
somebody else. And he
That's
gets
not
up,
the only problem.
gets up in the morning,
Legal trouble.
logs on to Second Life, and he claims to his real wife that his Second Life thing isn't an affair because it's a game.
Right.
But he tells the reporter, like, yeah, I can talk to her about anything. She really understands
Stuff I can't
me.
tell my old lady.
Yeah.
It's an emotional affair.
And
It's a game where you keep things from your wife and tell it to your face. It's a game. It's a game.
His wife was like, his avatar is like, he looks like him when he was 20 years old. It's ridiculous. And while the reporter was there, she brought him a sandwich, and he was in the Second Life. He didn't even notice, and the sandwich got cold.
Oh,
I know.
Because he was eating a virtual sandwich that his fake
Probably.
bride.
Yeah, there's people make virtual food. If you buy a dining table, you can sit around and pretend to eat the virtual.
The upside is that his virtual wife is probably not a lady, and it's probably
No, they have pictures of them both.
oh they do. Have they met in person?
No.
That's
Oh,
probably
no.
that'd probably
No,
be,
Chris, that'd be weird.
that would be weird.
That
yeah.
would be weird.
It really would. It is kind of breaking. It is kind of breaking the construct of the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to see them. And
What was the something happened recently where there was the lady from I think Detroit and a kid from the South, and they met on World of Warcraft, and
Yeah, that happens
she
a lot,
was-
too.
She was in her 30s. He was 16, 15.
Whatever.
And she drove down
World of
to go
Warcraft.
and visit him because they had such a
World of
good
Warcraft, it doesn't matter, does it?
Oh, no.
No, but she, she broke the rules. She went and saw him
Oh,
in
no,
IRL.
that's
in real
creepy
life.
now.
In real life.
Now
Yeah, and then she got arrested.
You just went to Creepyville.
Yeah.
She took a bus to Creepyville.
So the rule is her orc can fuck his dwarf, but in real life they can't come near each other.
No, exactly. Well, ironically, though, they do look like their own characters from the game.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
They're like
Just
people
as
who
gross.
have pets and they start to look like their pets. Like, you're starting to look like your avatar.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I don't really look like my avatar.
You don't.
No.
Yeah. But my avatar looks really cool, though.
Badass.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird. It's like old man cool. You know, it's just
Your avatar
like
is kind of Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
It's the guy you would see at Amoeba, just be like, that guy's he's cool. Because you know
He's been through some shit.
Yeah.
I bet he has a great album collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a great album collection. He's got a really hoarse voice thanks to 1.5 million cigarettes.
Yeah, it's a guy you hope used to be a producer for a band.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or a tour manager or something like, yeah, I used to be in the business, you know, and he knows all the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
He used to be their tour manager or something like that.
I was I used to go on the road with Winger. And then just something happened and then he just gave up the music biz. But he just hangs out at Amoeba.
What would happen with him and Winger?
Well, Winger actually the truth is Winger tried to break free and do different kind of music
As Kip?
as Kip Winger, and I think it didn't play out as well.
What was he going to call the band? It was already called Winger.
Kip.
Kip? Yes, I was going to ask.
Coffee House Kip. Totally different style.
Coffee House Kip.
It's going to be Kip. She's only 17. He's just going to do all of his songs but Coffee House style and bring it into the 90s.
She's my cherry pie.
Yep, Coffee House Warrant.
Lounge version.
All your favorites.
And while I'm singing about cherry pie, make sure and have some cherry pie over at the counter. It's made fresh every day.
He would do it like the guitar caps. I would
Yeah.
imagine, like tap
Yeah.
on,
Oh, yeah.
on the
On the
body
back of
it.
the back of the thing, cherry pie.
A little percussion for him.
His hair's pulled back. He's a much different Winger.
you like to
lot
rock
of
but
strength.
don't like standing up at shows anymore.
Yeah.
Kip Winger.
If you came here to get mellow, have a seat.
Let's do it. This show's gonna kick your ass with hugs.
I want to go.
I saw a Winger. No, it was Warrant or Winger. It was a really good rock and roll show. I saw in Vegas. My friend Jeff Davis and I drove from.
Oh, I love Jeff Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one day we drove from. We were in Vancouver, and we flew to Seattle, and then drove to Vegas all in a day.
Oh my god.
Wow.
To see Poison. I think it was Winger, and Cinderella.
Wow.
And Winger started.
Vegas.
What was Winger? Warrant? Gotta be Winger.
Probably Warrant, I think.
Winger is just one guy, really.
Yeah, but it was a band, and they weren't any rock. They were just wearing like jeans and shirts. They weren't like
No,
dressed up.
They decided to keep it real.
I guess, or just in. They were the opening act, and then Poison came on, and we're like Poison.
Yeah.
It was fantastic and hilarious and everything all at the same time. And then Cinderella came on, and just knocked us. I couldn't believe how great they were.
Wow.
Like there was no joke with Cinderella.
Yeah, dude, a lot of those bands were pretty good bands.
Well,
Cinderella's
they were
great.
showmen. It was
Yeah.
it was all about big rock and roll shows and being energetic.
No,
But
but
I
these-
gotta assume, was Jeff the only guy in a suit in the entire show?
He wasn't wearing a suit.
Oh, what?
He wasn't in a suit phase at the time.
Oh, okay.
That's like a phase he's going through. He'll change it. But it was like the Cinderella were so good. We were like, oh my god, like just a great rock and roll band, and like really caring about the music and just making a connection with the audience, like all that stuff. We were just like, I've been big fans of them ever since.
And then they've had another 20 years on top of the 80s to just get better.
Yeah.
become
Well, all
better
these guys
musicians.
are better musicians than they were. Like if you see any band now from when they were, that's like these classic rock bands or whatever.
Yeah.
And you go see them, they're way better musicians than they were when they were.
Well, they're
Yeah,
they're
they're
not
hits.
on heroin.
Yeah, and they're
That's
home
the
with their
other thing.
families
Yeah.
practicing.
And that's why they're better musicians, but boring people.
Their new songs aren't as good. The Heroin songs were a lot
They're
better,
awesome.
but technically they're mechanically
They're
better
awesome
musicians.
to watch, shitty
Yeah.
to hang out with.
I noticed that every rock and roll band that is still around tries to write a new record. Once they get in their 50s and whatever, if they were popular in 20, like when they get in their 50s, all the songs are about how much the world is screwed up and how we gotta,
So that's like the
because they didn't do anything about it when they could have. They were just partying
Yeah.
all night.
like even when like Tom Petty wrote like "Jammin' Me,"
Yeah.
like that was his version of that. Even though it was a good song, but it's like take back all your like this. It's just like an old man getting bugged by stuff.
Well, and it's
No, it's like, well, he has what was that? The Last DJ. It's just about DJ's not playing songs he likes anymore on the radio. It's just an old man complaining about DJs playing. I know it was about the politics of radio, but still.
Or if you're Bob Seger, like every fucking song is about how it was only awesome when you were a teenager. By the way, he was a rock star when he was older. So why was his life shitty when he was older? And like every song is like, everything turned to shit when I was 31. And it's just all about how he was a teenager.
Some
Just
stuff he's
That's
trying
how I
to
see
work
the
through.
world, man.
is that what it is?
Yeah, you got to grow up in Detroit or Cleveland to get that stuff, man. Everything does turn to shit when you're 30.
But it's my turn to
really
shit.
realize I'm not getting out of this
But
town.
you can flush it down in your awesome robot toilets that are we're at Drew's house, and Drew has robot toilets, and they're freaking awesome.
From Toto.
Freaking awesome.
Yeah, they're. I have these Japanese toilets that when you step in front of them, the lid raises automatically, and there's a remote that you can use to flush. It flushes automatically anyway, but it has. If you
It knows.
If you need a 2 flush, you can make it happen.
yeah, you can make it happen. You just use the remote and hit the flush button again, and then
Initiate, second flush. That's what you have to say. This is what I said.
Yeah.
I could have just been talking to myself.
my remember I never knew what double flusher meant. That insult from when I was from the 50s. Like he's a double flusher.
I don't know
You
what that-
4 flusher.
Remember that you have
should
to
be
flush that many times?
Yeah, you're such a
Yeah.
big piece of shit. That's how many times you have to be flushed. But I would
Now
hear like
there's a toilet that
I
will-
thought he's a double flusher or a 4 flusher. Now I never knew what it meant until like way later in my life, like 10 years ago. I was
like,
like,
is that
oh
cards,
man, I finally
or-
get it.
That makes sense.
Because nobody uses that anymore.
No.
I only
miss
had
old times.
I only was able to go number 1 in your robot toilet, but it does shoot water at you if you sit down on it. So I'm almost
Yeah,
tempted
there's
to
a
wait until I have to go to the
A
bathroom.
cleansing wand for front and rear,
Yep.
and then a drying
Cleansing or pleasure?
cleansing, I believe.
I wonder how
and
hard
then
it
a-
was to make that the breakdown for that. Just all the terms they had. Cleansing wand
I've
for the
seen
front and the rear.
I've seen the promo video for that toilet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the found footage festival.
Man, everybody has the weird porn, huh?
That's a pretty hot toilet.
Everybody has
I
their own
only
weird
jerk
porn.
off to it sometimes.
What was that? The old SNL sketch with Kevin Nealon was the lover's toilet, and it was like a double
they were
toilet.
side by side.
they
Yeah.
Press the button to make it flush at the same time together.
Yeah, it's almost that creepy. But it has a drying thing too that'll dry you off.
That's fantastic. So
And
you
you
don't
can
even
adjust-
ever need to use paper,
That's the theory,
You should.
but sometimes you really should.
Just
depending on your diet.
And you can't just whip the cleansing wand out and just start grinding it to clear off the area. At that
No.
point. No.
No, it's not. You have
All right,
to.
so it's an imperfect
you
toilet.
can you can use the remote to adjust it like forward and back, and you can adjust the pressure and stuff so you can hit just the right spot.
And this was I was saying.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
So it doesn't use some type of light grid to some type of laser grid to measure the dilation of your
No.
sphincter, so you can. It
it's
doesn't do anything.
dilated.
We're
let's
not to the
go.
singularity yet.
We're not there yet.
Does it-
We're almost there. We're almost
Does
there.
does it comfort you? Does it go? Oh, someone might go poopies.
Yes,
Wouldn't that be awesome?
that really would be.
Oh, you should see your doctor.
It just like the second it hits the water, you just hear, that's not good. Oh no! And it automatically calls your doctor and sends him the chemical composition of your waste.
Yeah.
Having Mexican again, huh?
That would be the future. That would be the future. When our toilets will send our doctor right to their mobile devices.
And I can
That'll be like
put
living
a
on the
virtual
island.
reality helmet on the toilet.
yes.
I can't tell you how uncomfortable I am right now at this
No,
point.
let's keep talking.
I don't think this
Is it
one's
cool?
going number one.
Do you guys mind if we take our shirts off?
No, go ahead.
No, it's
I don't go do whatever you need, man.
just something we do.
It's
It makes the
radio.
podcast
Yeah, whatever.
flow better,
Whatever.
And a radio broadcast, anything we say, we're doing.
That's right.
You know.
We're now shirtless and just kind of checking each other out.
Welcome
and
to the
having
theater of the mind.
theater of the mind.
Yeah.
So, we're all, by the way, we're huge fans of the Drew Carey Show.
Thank you.
Yes.
Huge fans.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you broke so many kind of
Rules.
well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you broke a lot of sitcom rules. That's exactly I mean, just like with the improv versions of the shows and
Yeah.
then like
How
new
about
choices.
How about live in 3 time
That was
zones doing
awesome.
improv, man?
Yeah.
that's insane.
4 years in a row.
Did it just get to a point where you were they asking you to do different stuff, or were you just pushing and pushing?
No,
and
we
pushing?
just did because it was a lot of it was Bruce Helford's idea. You know, he's the guy that was the driving force. To get selling the show and created with me and stuff, but he was like the main guy. And like he had, we did What's Wrong with This Episode specials.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was a big comic book fan. He remembers like comic books doing that. Where you
Right.
have April's Fools issue
Yeah.
the comic things
The
wrong.
one,
You have a contest and you have to send in.
Like where in one panel you have to find like, oh, there's no dog in this picture, but there's a dog in this picture.
Yeah, or just like the
yeah.
whole issue.
Yeah.
You know,
Or just things that like you would know from before would be wrong.
yeah, like Superman would be confronted with crypto schlepp, and you go, it's not
There's
that,
no
it's
crypto
kryptonite. Or Cryptoday. No, it's kryptonite.
Oh yes.
I have to like write that down. I don't even know what the clues in the comic books were because that was Bruce Helford's thing. But he said, yeah, we should do that. So we would do it, and then on the repeat we would show with little bubbles that would go boop boop,
Oh yeah, I remember the pop up.
and they would come up and tell you all the mistakes, and we would have like hundreds of them, and people would be really good at finding them.
It was also a 3D episode, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we had a 3D episode. We had the 3D episode was a network ordered one.
Yeah.
They were gonna have it was 3D night that they were gonna have on.
Oh yeah,
ABC.
with all their
Yeah, and all the shows were going to be in 3D, and so that was their. We had to do a 3D episode. That was kind of forced.
Weirdly, I just remember yours. I don't remember any other shows. On
Yeah,
TV.
and then we did the second dance number we did where we went to New York and Donald Trump was in the episode and stuff. That was because the network wanted us to do another dance number because the first one was such a big hit. They said you have to do another one, and we were like, well, I don't know, I can't think of anything. We'll just get them to New York, I guess. Or like we just had this crazy, stupid idea for a show.
It's funny how networks don't ever they don't ever really take the creative process into account. They're like, just do this.
Yeah.
Really? Because I don't know. if
Numbers
we-
good on first one. Do again.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, they do that all. But they do. I mean, they were. I mean, if we would have said there's absolutely no way, they would have They would have caved in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to put a gun to your head. But when they're paying the bills and stuff, you kind of like make them happy. Like anytime they ordered extra episodes, we would just do them. Mm-hmm. Like we never said like, "Wow, no, we're burnt out." They would say, "Hey, can we get 3 more episodes or 4 more episodes?" We go, and we'd multiply our pay by 4, and we go, "Yeah, absolutely."
I mean, that was really one of the
Money.
last.
I mean, yes.
It was really one of the last great shows of the stand-ups getting sitcoms.
Yeah, I was
thing.
I was the last of a lot of things. I was the
Yeah.
last stand-up to get called over to the couch, Johnny Carson's couch.
Oh wow.
I was one of the last stand-ups to have a big huge hit with a show. Like there was like a wave of, and I wasn't the last one on the sitcoms, of course, but I was on the last and the end of the trend.
Isn't that amazing that because do you know Jordan Brady?
Yeah, I know.
Jordan just made this documentary called I Am Comic, and it's really great. And it just it's just all these comics together, and it just sort of intercuts with, what their processes are and what is stand-up and what is, just kind of breaking down comedy for people. And it's really funny. And there's this overarching story of Rich Scheidner, who's like planning on making a comeback in the thing. And it's really great. But a lot of people like Foxworthy, he was talking about, and he almost got a little emotional talking about when Johnny waved him over. And it's so funny to me that just the way media is now and the way it's consumed now, that doing a television show like doing the Tonight Show just doesn't really mean what it meant at that time, where it literally would change your life.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have that?
There's a picture.
Holy
That's
shit!
awesome.
Drew just brought over the picture of. Can I take a photo of this and then
Sure.
put it on the
Sure.
put it on the blog?
You want me to hold it for you so you don't?
Yeah, maybe you do that so I don't do everything.
What if we got meta and put Drew in it?
Yeah, you hold it.
Well, now you're going to see my reflection taking the iPhone picture. Oh, there, that's better.
I just watched that last week on the DVD set.
That's
the
awesome.
Carson set.
Yeah, if you notice, that's like the only celebrity picture I have in my whole office.
That is amazing. I mean, that show really was.
That's the one to have.
That show really made people's careers, and there's nothing like that anymore. Like there's no.
No.
Was there a difference that you felt after the show?
Oh my God, yeah. It was like, this is going to sound weird. I've said this before in other interviews, but when I was in, not a lot. So when I was in junior high, like 12 or 13, I had a friend who went to a Pentecostal church, and he invited me to his youth group thing. And I got saved at the Pentecostal church. Mm-hmm. And it was a very emotional experience. And it's a real thing that you can feel, like going through your body, and talked in tongues and everything. And it's a real powerful emotional moment. And the only thing I can compare it to is when I did the Tonight Show and Johnny called me over.
Wow.
It felt like that. Like I could feel like my whole body change and every molecule just like, okay, it's different now. And I was like floating the whole time. I was like I was dreaming it. And I dreamed it the night before too, exactly what would happen. Couldn't get the vision out of my head. over and over again where I couldn't sleep. I was in Chicago working, even though I lived in L.A., and I was in Chicago working, and I had to get up even and get dressed and walk around the hotel to try to get to sleep. But I was imagining myself through my own eyes walking out on stage, doing my set word for word to time, and then Johnny calling me over and me making a joke to Ed McMahon, which is exactly what happened.
That's insane.
Yeah, because I'd been on the stage before. Kevin Pollak suggested that I go to the stage. I was talking to him once, and I said, "Yeah, any advice?" And he said, "Yeah, go there and visit the set before you're scheduled to go, or before they call you, because they call you sometimes that day." And so he suggested I go to the set. So I went to the set, and I went out. And the day I visited the set, Larry Miller was doing a set, and Jerry Seinfeld was backstage. I was just visiting, and I said, I met Jerry Seinfeld, and I go, "It's pretty crazy, huh?" And he goes, "Yeah, this is what it's all about."
Was he just relatively nonplussed by the whole?
No,
thing?
he was there for
Oh, he was
with
too.
Larry Miller just to hang out with him. Larry Miller was doing a set, and Jerry. Was
Jerry wasn't performing. He was just
no,
visiting.
he's just hanging out because Larry Miller was doing a set. He was just coming there with his friend and watching his friend do a set, and he goes, "Yeah, this is what it's all about. Doing spots on the Tonight Show."
What's going through your mind at the? Because I know that.
And I got to walk out. I'm sorry, I got to walk out and see the stage when it was empty, so I knew exactly what the presence was like. So me imagining it in my head was just like that, and it was weird.
So Kevin's advice was great. It was good for you to see.
Really good advice. Yeah.
What's going through your? Because I mean, not that I'm saying that it was the same thing as doing Carson, but I just did the John Oliver show for Comedy Central, and it was so much fun. But I had done so many. I'd been doing shows like every weekend for a few months,
Yeah.
and so for me, it just felt very reflexive to go out there. Were you kind of in that mode of, like kind of on autopilot, or were you aware at all of what was going on and freaked out, and what was the experience like?
No, I had my notes framed. I don't have them. They're in storage right now, but I have them framed in a frame. My notes from that night, and I had I had every single joke timed out.
Oh wow!
Because they said it was going to be 7 minutes, but they could cut it to 6. And I had to be able to like drop individual lines from the thing.
Oh yeah.
And I had to be ready, so everything was. I recorded my act, and I knew just what I was putting in my Tonight Show set. And when I got the word in Chicago that I was doing the show, like on Wednesday, like that night, and I think that night and Thursday night, I did my Tonight Show set in front of my act, and then just kind of like funkered through the rest because that was like my best stuff.
Your closer at the top of the set.
Yeah. And so I had all that on a piece of paper, and I had that vision the night before, and I couldn't get it out of my head, and I slept only on the plane on the way to L.A. I came to L.A. and I got a haircut, and I was mad because the haircut was too short. I went to like a Supercuts.
Oh.
And got my hair cut because all I needed was a buzz cut, and they cut it like I was like, "That's so short." Like they cut it way too short. And then I went to the NBC. And it was really. I kept on looking at this piece of paper, just like going over the thing in my head, and I thought I was third for some reason. I thought I was going on last. Penelope Ann Miller was on after me, and George Segal was on. Sorry, George Segal was on right before me. So I thought I was on after Penelope Ann Miller. And then they came to get me, and I go, he goes, "Well, you ready?" And I went, "What are you talking about?" He said, he goes, "Well, you're on next." And I went, "Well, I guess I don't need this." And I had my notebook. The page was still in the notebook. I hadn't perforated it off yet. And I just went, "Well, I don't need this, I guess." And I just tossed it. And I didn't even get a chance to look at it before I went out.
Oh, shit.
And I stood there, and then they opened the curtain. And from that moment on, it was like a dream state, I'm telling you.
Wow.
I went out and I did everything just exactly how I was supposed to, and it looked exactly like it did in my vision. And I remember seeing, Johnny Carson was hanging on to the desk, trying not to fall over.
That's insane.
He was laughing so hard he had to grab the desk because he was going to fall over in his chair.
I'm jealous.
And he's pounding.
I'm
the
jealous
desk.
because I feel like for comics now, there's no parallel experience. There's
nothing.
There's no analogous experience that we have that's going to ever be like that again.
It was so crazy. And then he, was going like this, and I went like me, and he went, "Yeah, come on over." And I remember Doc Severinsen laughing, like the guys in the band laughing.
Wow, awesome.
And it was like being saved in a church. And then I went to the Improv. The cool thing is I went to the Improv that night, and that's like the tradition was to go to the Improv and watch yourself on TV. So they shut the music off and they put the TV on when I did my Tonight Show set. And I remember the whole place like bursting into applause. And
Oh
it was
my God,
packed.
that's huge.
It was packed, yeah. And Bud Freeman like sent over a bottle of champagne.
Oh wow.
And then that was a Friday. So then over the weekend, it was like my agent just got called, my manager rather, just got call after call, and didn't have an agent. And then Monday through Friday, I flew back Sunday. And then Monday night through Friday night, I did sets at the Improv, showcase sets for agents. They were looking to sign me. And what I'm telling you, like, the head of the agency would show up. Like, they would send an agent over. You know, like Marty Klein from APA came over. That's who I eventually signed with. He was the head of the agency. Like, he came over to see me and met with me. 23 William Morris agents showed up.
Jesus.
They had the head. I feel bad even telling the story now because I'm not with William Morris. But they had, this is like crazy for a new guy. They had the head of their literary department, the head of their commercials, the head of their TV, the head of, you know, movies. Like all these agents, 23 of them came to see me do a set. And then they sat upstairs with me at the Improv for 45 minutes. What can we do with you? This guy will do that. This guy will do that. You know. And Bud Freeman, I remember that night, gave me another bottle of champagne because he couldn't believe it because he said he never saw anything like that in his life.
Wow.
That's incredible. Wow. Well, I remember one time, this was probably like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
When you used to do those Thursday night improv shows at the
those
Hollywood
were fun,
Improv.
weren't
They were phenomenal because it was those were the best shows of the week that you could get on. So Drew, they would do the Improv All Stars at the Hollywood Improv.
It was the cast. It started out with the cast of the Drew Carey show.
It was just a cast of the Drew Carey show.
Yeah, that was my big fuck you to every other sitcom on TV. That's what in my head. That's what I thought at the time because I thought like, you know, because we were never number one in the ratings or anything like that. The Drew Carey show, like we'd win our time slot and stuff. That was about it. And then, and we had like, you know, really broad humor on our show, so it wasn't, you know. It wasn't as received as well as like other shows, but I was thinking to myself, like, I'd like to see these other fucking shows get up on the Improv with their cast and no writers and make up a show.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it would be me and Kathy and Ryan and Dietrich, who used to do the Improv and theater, and Craig Ferguson would show up.
Those were always the best shows, and they would always have a couple stand-ups go on before you.
Yeah.
And those were the sweetest spots because the
crowd.
The rooms were packed and people were jazzed. And I did a set before your Improv one night, and I had a really good set. And afterwards, you came up and you were like, "Hey man, that was really funny." And I did not sleep that night because I was like, "Oh my god, Drew Carey just said I was really funny." I mean, to be fair, it was a really good set, but it was really like it still just blew me away. Like it was one of those moments where I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is my life right now in 2001. That I get to, that I do stand up, and then a stand up that I know and respect would come over and be really nice to me after. Like it was a really great experience. For
I always
me.
tell people if I think they're funny,
But it's nice, and I'm just telling you, young comics really appreciate it because it's those, you know, because like it's stand-up can be sometimes only as rewarding as I'm getting up and doing it, and it's part of a process, and so you know those little milestones every once in a while kind of help, kind of like kick you to the next step because you sort of feel validated.
Yeah, I think doing it now too, especially after Carson's off the air, and that was like the signifying moment to say that you were officially a really a stand-up comedian. And I remember when I started up, I always thought, well, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like I'm actually a stand-up comedian. Well, maybe when I get on a good show, I like an actual booked show. I'll say I feel like
you can tell your parents, look, I'm doing this.
Yeah,
it's not just
it's
a
a thing.
goof.
It's an actual thing.
A living I'm making.
But it never even after I did it on Comedy Central, even after that night, it just still doesn't feel. And there's no real signifying moment these days. I think that we're
Tonight Show is it, man.
Yeah, I think
mean,
so.
like careers today are made, I think, by the sum total of just an enormous amount of appearances. Like it feels like you constantly have to punch people in the face to convince them that you're there.
It's all jabbing now.
It is all jabbing, as opposed to that. There's not that one thing that tips it anymore.
Johnny Carson was the haymaker, man, and if you could get called over to the couch, that was it. Honestly, I was in show business the next day, and my whole career started that Monday after I did the Tonight
But you had
Show.
you had done like the rounds of like the Carolines and Evening at the Improv stuff.
Yeah, I did an Evening at the Improv like everybody did though. Like it got to the point where if you weren't on Evening at the Improv, what the hell's wrong with you? Like honestly, if you met a guy who couldn't get on Evening at the Improv and you were working with him, you're like, oh my god, this guy must suck.
They didn't even get on Evening at the Improv.
Yeah, like they just run out of like they were having guys were on like 3 times on Evening at the Improv and stuff. was one of those things where that was the credit that everybody had.
And now you could do
Comedy on the road.
You could do the Tonight Show like 30 times, and it would probably barely affect your career.
Comedy Tonight.
There are tons of comics that do like Jay Leno's Tonight Show constantly, and no one really knows about him.
There was a guy at the time. I won't say his name. He works at the Tonight Show now, and I was with him at the Improv like the week after I did the Tonight Show, and people were coming up to me going, "Hey, how's it feel to be Flavor of the Week?" and stuff like that.
Other comics?
It's like, yeah, and I was like, "Feels great." You know, 'cause they were like,
It's really good.
yeah, they just wanted to know like, what's it like? Because it was like, honestly, like a big blow up, and it was really surreal. And Jack Cohen's his name. Do you know Jack? He works at the Tonight Show. And there was another comic sitting with us, and Jack did a set, you know, and we were talking, and he goes, Jack Cohen and I had the same manager, which this guy didn't know. And he goes to Jack, he goes, "How many times have you done the Tonight Show?" And Jack said, like, I don't know, 15, 16 times. He'd done like tons of times. And he looks at me and he goes, "And this motherfucker does it one time. You did it 15 times, nothing. This motherfucker does it one time. He gets the whole world laid at his feet." And he looks at Jack, he goes, "You know what your problem is? It's your management."
I wonder if your manager both got two very different calls from clients the next day.
No, me and Jack just looked at each other, started laughing. So
Well, it was funny to me to read in Steve Martin's book Born Standing Up. He says he did the Tonight Show a shitload of times before it finally.
I used to
popped
only
for him.
watch. I used to only watch the Tonight Show when he was on, or and I used to get him mixed up with. Oh shit, who was it? But Martin Mull.
Uh-huh.
And I'd see Martin. I go, "Oh, I got to watch the Tonight Show," because I would only watch the Tonight Show if there was a comic on I liked, or if it said new comic so and so. But if there was a comic on, I'd watch the Tonight Show, and if not, I wouldn't watch the Tonight Show. I only watched the Tonight Show when there was comics on. It seemed like all the time. I would look in the TV guide and go, "Oh, I have to stay up tonight." Wow. And if Steve Martin was on, I always would go like, "Oh, I love that guy," and I would stay up and watch him.
That's definitely the common thread. Like a lot of comics. I mean, I was the same way. I would always seek out. I watched every comedy special. I would only watch comics on.
Yeah, but
shows.
now you can find everything you want in like an hour
instantly.
Yeah.
and you can get a collection of, and then you're set. But when I was watching it, I mean, that was it. If you didn't catch him that moment, you never saw him.
Yeah.
I had that conversation with one recently. I was talking about the Dr. Demento show when I was
Loved
growing
it.
up. I loved Dr. Demento. It came on Sunday nights in Memphis,
Yep.
where I lived.
Sunday nights in Cleveland too.
Appointment radio. If you missed
Absolutely.
Dr. Demento that week, it was gone.
Nothing-
You
I
didn't
would
get it
record
back.
Nothing to talk about at school the next
You
day.
couldn't call anyone and be like, "Hey, did you get? Can you just send me Dr. Demento?" Like no one had it.
No one had it.
I grew up in Hawaii, and they didn't play it. They played it once on my favorite radio station just to try it out. No one apparently listened to it. People complained, so they never.
People complained?
People complained.
What?
Hawaii's a dumb place.
Hi, I'm a bored Hawaiian,
Yeah.
and I want to complain about this form of entertainment that
It's
you
not,
tried to
it's
give
not
me.
comedy about making fun of different nationalities. No one in Hawaii wants to hear it.
Hello, boys and girls.
Yeah, so
The smogberry trees.
the first stuff I really got to hear Dr.
Those
Demento was that
pig-burying sand diggers. I said sand diggers, by the way. I just want to make sure that's...
Dr. Demento. I used to get all jazzed up hearing that opening theme song and stuff.
It's great. I listen to it now. I mean, once the internet, that's when I got to kind of go back and listen to everything. And he put out that 20th anniversary collection,
Yeah.
and that was when I got to. But that was just a compilation of songs
Barnes
on
and
the show.
I
Barnes.
used to tape those.
Barnes and
and I
Barnes,
used to-
Fish Heads, Billy
Fish
Movie.
Heads is great.
Fish
Yeah.
Heads.
Billy Movie.
Totally Fish Heads.
It's so funny how I feel like when you have the kind of comic gene, which I still haven't figured out if it's a gene defect or if it's an enhancement.
I'd say defect.
It
Defect.
might be a defect. Yeah, the
I think it's environmental.
The need to make people that you don't know like you is a fun
Were you
thing.
youngest in your family or something?
I was an only child.
That'll do it.
But it was
I'm the youngest.
totally. But like when those little beacons like Dr. Demento, you just kind of feel your radar go up. Like, oh, that's a thing that I need, and then you just
Anything weird like that, I loved it, man. I never like all my shows that I liked when I was a kid always got canceled. Like one of my favorite shows when I was a kid was a summer replacement show. They used to do that in the like shows that had a short run that they didn't use for the regular season. They would show in the summer, and they called them summer replacement shows. And they would put them on for like 6 weeks, 10 weeks. That was it. And one was called the Ken Berry Wow Show.
Oh, Ken Berry.
Yeah, he had a show called The Wow Show. It was a variety show with comic sketches and stuff. And me and my friend would talk about it constantly at school. He did a thing he would give out an award at the end of the show for like, I don't know, some stupid reason, but he would try to give the award to the guy, and the guy would run away, and he would chase him. So they have this like Benny Hill like da-da-da-da-da at the end of the show. And guess what time it is? It's award time, and the guys would come out in tuxedos with their arms or hands on each other's elbows, and they would go, award time, excitement and fun. And me and my friend did that award time bit all the way through our lives. Like never stopped saying award time, and we would be sitting around drinking, looking for a laugh. You know, you just say one thing from your past. And we would,
Same thing with like Police Squad. You know,
every show I like got
amazing.
canceled or
Gone.
wasn't popular. Yeah.
Remember before when you saw a really neat show or a neat comedy thing on TV, and then you would have to describe it or act it out to your friends the next day to tell them about it? And nowadays you're just like, there's this guy. I'll just send you the link.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. You can just see it with your eyes and brain.
Yeah, exactly.
I
won't do it
describe
justice.
to you in
There's a
words.
show where there's a spaceman and he travels in time, and
just
then
send it
there's
to me.
meets a caveman, and the caveman travels with him. His name is Ook. That was a show.
What is that?
It's about time.
Oh, It's About Time. You know, I know It's About Time from my TV theme song CD
It's about
that
time.
I had when I was
it's
in
about
college.
space. It's about time for the
I was like,
human
what is
race.
that show?
It's about time. It's about the.
So the summer replacement shows were almost just kind of like British TV, where just 6 episodes and they were done.
Well, it was just like shows that didn't make it and they were going to get canceled, and they had
Yeah.
to show them. You know, so they just put them on in the summer. But Kimberly
Not
watched
anymore.
it.
Everything just rots away in some kind of failure vault underneath Hollywood.
Yeah,
Like,
now they
just-
have like 24-hour, like they program like all year round too. There's really no.
Yeah.
There's like repeats in the summer, but they really do try to have fresh stuff in the summer. Some of the cable channels. And
Yeah,
stuff.
the cable channel. That's the weird thing. The summer is now time for TV for a lot of shows.
That's why I pitched. That's how I pitched Who's Line at first, because I was like, you got to have a show because they were doing nothing in the summer, and I said you should really have stuff on special in the summer instead of just showing repeats and suffering through this. It's ridiculous to let the Nielsen company control you. I couldn't understand. I never still do understand why the Nielsen company controls these.
No, I think it's fair that 1,000 families represent
all of California.
Yeah, everyone in the country.
It's great. I mean, yeah. Plus, the company says we're going to start this, May 1st. So that's when all this May sweep stuff comes out. Why can't they just take samples all through the year? And I got to know. There's so many better ways to do it, and the networks are starting to come up with their own ways to go against it, and I don't blame them. It's like the stupidest thing. Sorry.
Well, the thing that sucks but the thing that sucks about it is that if you're
Nielsen's going to screw me somehow. I just know.
you're not going to get that Nielsen job.
I should be talking like this and
Only
have a show on
50-year-old
TV.
nerds listen to the show. Drew.
We're going to
Price
finish
is
this
Right
podcast.
ratings
You're
are
going to hear a
dropping.
message. Beep. Drew, it's Ted Nielsen. Listen, we want to give you $100 million to run the company, so give us a call back if you haven't been on any podcasts lately.
It'll basically be the opposite of what happened at Carson. It'll just
Yeah.
be the end of it.
Yeah,
It'll be the bookends.
I talked to somebody that was working on a show where they were at a meeting at the network, and the guy corrected the guy at the network, and the guy at the network got a name, an actor's name mixed up, and he said, "It's so and so, you fucking idiot." Like he couldn't stand how stupid the guy was, and he finally said, "So and so, you fucking idiot." It was
How'd
like
that
he
go?
just had it, and then they said when they got back to the production offices, you've been in production offices, right?
Yeah.
Phones ringing,
Yeah.
people. Silence. No phone ringing. Nobody hustling back and forth.
This shot heard round the world. But I mean, to be fair, that's a very satisfying moment for us to hear about.
Yeah.
Probably not so great for that guy.
Yeah, you could have just been polite and said, "Oh, you're mixing it up, but don't worry."
Or
about
you
it."
just let it go. And you're like,
Yeah.
yes, it is Carl Eastwood, famous
Yeah.
actor. Famous actor. Just agree with him. Just agree with him.
Yeah, there's a. I don't know. I'll tell you the joke. There's a joke where you can put in anything like that. Like two producers meet, and who's the guy? The joke I heard. I really apologize to the guy too. By the way, if he's listening, I don't want to hurt his feelings. But who's the guy that was in 3 Men and a Baby?
Tom Selleck?
No,
Paul
the other
Reiser?
guy.
Steve Gutenberg.
Gutenberg. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Paul Reiser.
I'm confused.
He wasn't a
with
3
my
Men.
two dads.
No,
I
yeah.
get multiple fathers confused.
So the joke
That's
is two
reasonable.
producers are talking, and one producer says, "So what are you up to?" And the other producer says, "Oh, yeah, the best movie coming out. It's going to be great. Who's directing it? Eastwood. Clint Eastwood? No, Carl Eastwood. It's his brother-in-law. He's really good. They talk at dinner all the time. Who wrote it? Esterhaus. Joe Esterhaus? No. Bill Esterhaus. It's his third cousin. It's going to be great. He's writing runs in the family. Who's starring in it? Gutenberg. He says, Steve Gutenberg? He goes, yeah.
I'm guessing Steve Gutenberg does not listen to the podcast. I think you're going to be safe.
Well, maybe. I mean, if you are, I apologize. That's just, it could happen to anybody.
Not Mahoney.
Who's Mahoney?
He was the character he played in Police Academy.
Oh, there's another joke you could put in, like if you want to use to, like knock knock.
Who's there?
Steve Gutenberg.
Steve Gutenberg who?
That's show business.
I like, you told me once.
But you can put anybody's name.
You told me once that you get
like including mine, probably.
You told me once that you get together with a group of your friends and you guys just tell each other clean jokes, which is fascinating to me because I always want to clean up my act because the first place my mind goes is right to the groin.
No, it's Jeff likes all these old punny jokes, like Doctor, the Invisible Man's here to the Invisible Man's in the lobby. Tell him I can't see him right now.
Yeah, oh, awesome. I like you told me one that was what's wet and tastes like red paint?
Blue paint.
Blue paint. That's a great joke.
One of Jeff's jokes. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Murray the incredibly rude interrupting cow.
Murray the incredibly
Moo!
See? It's fun. It's fun.
Always funny.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, the phone lines are lighting up. Okay, if you got a question for Drew.
Drew, it's Ted Nielsen. What the fuck, dude?
Ted Nielsen's just, what's up, bro?
Was it Ted Nielsen?
David Allen called me.
Ah.
If I could drop names.
Yeah, drop names.
Bob Saget had the best joke about that. He said, don't ever drop names. De Niro told me that.
Bob Saget also has one of the most disgusting but one of my favorite jokes where he said something like, I think he tried it on stage. I don't remember how it went, but he said, I had a picture of my mom's face tattooed on my ass because it was the only thing that kept my dad from butt fucking me.
That sounds just like a Bob Saget joke.
That is a Bob Saget joke.
Yeah, the whole time I was watching him on these like clean family shows, I would just think like, wow, if they just knew his stand-up act was so dirty and dark.
And then people see it and they're like, well, now he did this. He did a special where he was filthy on it. But I mean,
yeah, but it's off-putting a little bit.
But years ago, I would I would go to the Laugh Factory with him, and he would do his set. And then you just like people's mouths would be agape because they just didn't know like the guy who's talking about like fingering the Olsen twins. And
I know.
What?
I was never really sure if he was after Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos, if he was trying to be more filthy to make up for the lack of.
No, that's
filthy.
just how
he
he
always
is.
was that way.
Yeah.
I mean, he just was that.
I met a
guy.
girl I'm nuts over. She's only this tall.
Yeah, I remember that joke. I used to love watching his. Like, he was one of the comics that I loved watching in the '80s too, because he just had these super fucking fast riffs.
really fast.
I've seen him do. I used to see him at the Cleveland Comedy Club, and I used to go watch him. This was before I was doing stand-up, but I would go every night. He was there, and see him like 4 times a week, and just to see him and pay money. And he would. I've seen him do 2 hours.
Yeah,
with
he's
4 standing ovations. Like nobody would let him leave.
Wow.
And he had to keep coming back and doing another 15 minutes, another 10 minutes.
He was just a slaughterhouse, and the Funniest Home Videos and Full House was so the antithesis of his comedy.
Yeah.
Do you think that just made him made him rich? But do you think like it kind of maybe taken away from some of the success he would have had as a stand-up?
I think so. Yeah.
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 Just like because it kind of took away his personality.
Maybe, but look at it from his point of view.
It played to his face, but not his personality.
Someone's offering you a show, and they're offering you a shit ton of money. And if you're a comic, especially at that time, the idea is you want to be on television.
Oh,
so
no,
why
totally.
would you?
Yes.
But just I think in hindsight, though, because now it's his stand-up is almost a parody of the fact that he's not. Like he's not the clean guy. It still seems like he's trying to make up for that.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like I think he was satisfied with everything because he is a family man, and he if you can put out like I like doing Price is Right isn't exactly my. I'm doing a writing. I'm getting back in a stand up now, so I'm doing writing exercises to write jokes every day, and I going through this old workbook I have, and you're supposed to list 25 of your favorite jokes. Do you ever do any joke writing books and go through them?
You mean like my old stuff?
No, just like books that teach you how to write jokes. That's how I learned how to write jokes from these books.
When I first started, like the very first time I started fucking around with stand up was in college, and I had Judy Carter's book.
That's okay.
But people make fun of it, but when you're like 18 years old and it tells you to list things you hate, list things you love, like it gets you to think.
Yeah, you have to do all that kind of stuff.
How to Write Jokes by Sidney Resnick.
I bought
Look how old that is.
I bought Richard Belzer's How to Be a Stand-Up Comedian book, and then realized it was a book making fun of people who would buy books about how to be a stand-up comedian. And I was so ashamed personally that I never bought another one.
Yeah, there's another book out there right
I think anything that gets you to start writing is good.
Yeah, so I had to write list 25 of my favorite jokes. And I looked at them, and every single one of them was dirty. There wasn't one clean joke, except for the cow joke.
Right.
That was like the only clean joke on there. Everything else was dirty or had like a sexual thing to it, including
So
the kid with the welding man. I'm not really a welder. That one.
What's that?
Oh well, fuck, I fucked it up now. I thought you knew. A kid is finds a welder's mask and he picks it up. He's playing with it, and old guy in a Cadillac pulls up and says, "Hey kid, you want to ride?" The kid says, "Sure." And he gets in the car. He's playing with the welder's mask, and the guy goes, "Hey kid, you know what frottage is?" The kid goes, "No, I never heard of it." He's playing with the welder's mask, and he goes, "You know what's another sexual term?
Hot Carl.
You know what a hot Carl is? Dirty Sanchez." Kids, "No, I never heard of it." You never hear of a man-boy love society? And the kid says, "Hey buddy, I'm not really a welder." But you have to think of like three like obscure sexual things like frottage. And,
By the way, can we all agree that no one has ever done Dirty Sanchez? No one has ever made a Groucho mustache, or no one has ever made a big old mustache
out of poop.
Out of poop. That's never
on the end
happened
of
in
the
the
dick.
history of sex.
I heard about Dirty
it.
Sanchez, is I just like I always thought it was just a guy putting his own fingers up his butt and then just wiping it across.
No,
someone
it's supposed
as a
to come
prank.
from the tip of your dick.
Oh, okay.
That's what it actually has to come.
When I was doing
It's
a
a
US,
paintbrush.
I was doing this USO tour. Everybody was given the shocker symbol, when they take pictures with them, like everybody, and they were like, "Yeah, it's the shocker," and it's your third finger is bending with your thumb, so you just
Right.
have the pinky and the top two fingers
Right.
are showing, and it's. You really have to pardon me. The joke is one in the pink and two in the stink.
Yes.
Or two in the pink and one in the stink.
Yes.
And I was talking when I was doing stand-up. I was like, yeah, the shocker. Like, try doing that when you get home to your wife. What the fuck are you doing? It's the shocker, honey. Get the fuck out of here. But I just got back from Iraq. I don't give a fuck.
one of my favorite jokes. It's not so much gross as it is just creepy. And it's a man and a boy are walking through the forest. And
I got to walk out of here.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite ones. You know that one?
Sorry.
So,
I'm enjoying joke time.
we're the worst comedy duo. He just says the punchline. Hey, Drew,
The
are you
two
going to
guys
say the
who
one?
just get their own jokes, but don't let anyone else know. Oh, yeah, I know that one. Well, we still got another 45 minutes.
Do you want to talk about the? No, we don't need that. But it's a man and a boy are walking in the forest, and the boy says to the man, "Wow, this is really scary." And the man goes, "You're telling me I got to walk back by myself."
Yeah.
I have heard that one.
Love that one.
That was good.
It's a classic.
And then do you know the one about the 12-year-old boy and the martini? Salesman goes to a guy's knocks on a door, and the door opens. There's a 12-year-old boy standing there, and he's wearing his mom's bra and panties, and he's drinking a martini and smoking a cigar. And the salesman says, "Excuse me, young man, are your parents at home?" The guy goes, the kid says, "What the fuck do you think?"
I want that kid to have a show.
Six-year-old kid walks in, his dad putting on a condom. The kid goes, "What are you doing?" And the father goes, "Oh, this is to build a mousetrap, son. I'm going to catch a mouse." And the kid says, "What are you going to do when you catch it? Fuck it." Yeah. Here's a really bad one.
Kid catches his dad having sex with his mom. His parents having sex. And he goes, "What are you doing?" And the parents go, "Nothing. We're doing nothing. Just get out of here." Later on, the dad's walking around, and he opens the door, and he sees the kid has his grandmother bent over the table, in his dresser in his bedroom, and he's fucking the shit out of her from behind. He says, "What are you doing?" And the kid says, "Oh, I get it. It's okay for you to fuck my mother, but if I fuck yours..." Bad guy.
All right, so this
Every joke I know every joke I like is dirty. So because we were talking about like you're writing jokes.
Yes.
You have to.
it's a challenge. Well, and
it
then
up.
and then there's the non sequitur, according to Sidney Resnick's How to Write Jokes.
It's so old. It's like from the 40s or 50s.
Next, there is the non sequitur. By definition, the punchline of this type of gag bears very little logic to the build-up. Scientist. The secret formula is H2SO4 plus CH3O7 divided by NG5HS3. Comic. Yes, and in New Jersey, the phone number is Bigelow 47500.
What a folly! What a good folly!
We've had some good times. And the scientist just murders the comic.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Good joke.
We all laughed at it.
That is a good joke.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who owes me money, and he has a lot of old comedy stuff around. So every once in a while, I'll say, "Hey, I got this book for you," So
And you
get
say,
these
thanks for the book, you still owe me money.
yeah.
This was just interest.
Yeah.
These books are just interest. What we've talked before a little bit about your writing process, but
Wow, hold on, whoa. Besides paying well, comedy writing is a great springboard for advancement into show business. Many of our best radio and TV producers used to and still do turn out comedy material. For example, Max Liebman, Park Levy, Frank Galen, Al Lewis, and Hal Finberg, among many, many others.
Stop! You had me at Max Levin.
Hey, boy, I never heard of these guys. From 1954, this book. It's a pamphlet, actually. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say we've talked a little bit about your writing process and your whole thing about like writing 10 jokes a day, and if you wrote a dirty joke, that didn't count toward your 10
Didn't
jokes.
count towards. That's what I'm going back to now. Starting today, a friend and I are doing it back and forth and via email. Join us if you want. But you write 10 jokes. I came up with the 10 because only 1 out of 10 was ever any good. Like that's my writing ratio, and even then, it's like pushing it. So you try to get 1 joke a day, 5 days a week. That's what I tell every comic. It's really golden formula. 1 joke a day, 5 days a week. So 1 out of 5, 1 out of 10, whatever it takes you. But it can't be dirty. It has to be clean enough to do on network television, like a Tonight Show or Letterman or something. And then it can't be topical. So it can't be about the Olympics or whatever. And you can write jokes about what just happened, topical jokes, and you can write dirty jokes, but they just count towards the 10. And if you do that every day, 5 days a week, 50 weeks a year, you'll have about 45 new minutes a year. I timed it out.
Wow.
That's a good formula.
The delivery, the punchline, and the laugh all take a certain amount of time. You times that. And plus, you figure while you're on stage, you're going to add to it and, add tags and stuff. And, anyways, stuff like that. That'll kill a few seconds.
Right.
And then it all adds up to about 45 minutes.
How complete are your jokes?
Not very.
Done. No, do you how much do your jokes grow after you get them on stage?
I have a drawer full of shit in my desk. I could show you like the most awful ideas that aren't even jokes, man. It's just like you have to write down. I would like 10 things and just like 1 kind of funny thing and 9 thoughts about what could be funny maybe.
But funny maybe. Do you do those on stage to figure it out further, or do you just wait till it's
No, I have
finished?
to have fun. I have to have what I think is a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's so many, and there's no one way. Like so many different comics have someone like Louis C.K. will be like, I get an idea, and then I just go up and work it out on stage, and I'm like, I can't do that
I don't know how to do
because
that, man.
I've tried that before. Like sometimes, like once a year, I'll get a swagger where I'm like, I'm gonna go up on stage and see what happens. I got a couple ideas. Death, like instant death. Like it has to be a little more planned out for me.
Yeah.
As long as you have, I think it's there can be a little area in the middle maybe, but as long as you have an out, as long as you have something to punch out with, like of an idea, you can kind of maybe play with it live.
Well, if I have I just put it in between 2 strong bits, and then I know if I have something to save it. If it doesn't work, I just go that and just go on to the next fun thing.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was working at a club on the road, and I came up with me and this other comic were hiring a kite, and I came up with a line while we were high, and we were laughing so hard we were rolling on the floor, and I was like, I gotta get a pen, I gotta write this down. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget like the gist of it. And I was like, oh my God, that was funny. We were still like, honestly, tears coming down our cheeks. We're laughing so hard, rolling on the ground, on the carpet, on this filthy comedy condo, just like, breaking the furniture, laughing so hard. And then I got up on stage the next night and I did it, and you could have heard a pin drop.
The trick is the audience needs to be all high.
I forget the joke, yeah, but the audience could have heard a pin drop, and the only laugh I heard was the other comic, like back by the bar, just pissing himself because
the back of the room.
He remembered that I was doing that joke. Remember, do you ever see comics that only make the bartenders laugh?
Oh yeah, yes. Jonah and I. Yes.
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 Like, wow, that guy's
They're the
pretty
ones that
funny.
give me the free drinks, though, so that's all I care about sometimes.
I mean, we sort of came up in what's more known as the alternative comedy scene, so a lot of those jokes are just for other comics.
Blender going.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Chicken. Oh.
I had to do a bit. I had to do a thing in Chicago. It was called the Stay Out All Night Club, and that sign outside said "Stay Out." and then real small letters that said all night club. So it was everybody called it the Stay Out, and there was like a rite of passage back then in Chicago. You had to do the Stay Out. It paid $50, and it was like on a Sunday night at 11 o'clock at night or something like that. Some crazy hours, and it was this big, huge like discotheque, and there was only like 14 people there in the whole place. I mean, massive. Remember those like big, huge clubs?
Yep.
And like just wide open. And there's only like 14 people there, and they said, "Oh, folks, welcome to comedy night at Stay Out." And it was just me having to do 15 minutes in front of like 6 couples that were seated not next to each other, and
Always the best setup for comedy when you just scatter
in
people.
this big wide open place, with like, and the dance floor had like a brass rail in front of it and all that stuff.
Even better.
It was like the worst. But all I could do was I just looked at the other comics that were there, because everybody would show up with their friends to watch them bomb at the Stay Out. That was like, like you had to go and see it. Like you never saw, like you'd see like the funniest guy, and then they go to the Stay Out and just watch them struggle. There's nothing funnier than watching a friend of yours struggle on stage.
Just like you've tied weights to them and thrown them in the water.
Nothing funnier. Like honestly, like I could, think of guys I know just getting up there and just bombing in trouble, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm so glad I'm here.
I remember my first time at the Comedy Store was one of the worst sets I've ever had in my life, and after my first joke, it was like always my opener. It always worked. I used it every time, and this is my first time. Mitzi's here. I'm going to try and do it. I do the first joke, and I was so appalled that it got nothing.
Wow.
That like I actually just went like, what?
Confidence.
I just lost, and then I heard a guy in the back. It might have been Ari Shaffir or someone just going, "Oh." Like I got kicked in the balls on stage. Just like,
Can you fucking believe what just happened to that guy?
yeah, exactly.
Well, we're at the end of the hour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, darn, it was really fun.
This is super fun. Well, maybe
Every week, huh, Drew?
You
Make a decision now.
You know, it'd be really fun if you want to do this sometime. We can
gotta
do
schedule it.
We can do this, and if we feel like it doesn't work out, we don't have to run it. But we should come and all bring our notebooks, and if you just want to go through like old jokes
I'd
and
love to.
just clean out
So
clean
much
out
crap.
notebook. You know,
Yeah.
and some of it's not going to be great,
I
but
have
some
an
of
actual drawer full of
stuff.
That's one of my. I have the next 2 weeks off, and one of my things is to go through that drawer, my old jokes, and just like go through everything. And
You know, on the
impossible, right?
on the
It's so
original
weird.
politically
Scraps of paper
incorrect,
thrown in.
on the original politically incorrect on Comedy Central, they used to do that like in the last chunk of the show. Like Bill Maher would come out, and then his writer would come out, and they would just clean out their notebooks. And I always love that about that show. We should we'll come back sometime.
the
and
old
then,
politically incorrect was great, wasn't it?
it was
Yeah,
phenomenal.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I like the new one, but the old one was great.
Well, the old one was Comedy Central, so it was more focused on comedy necessarily than politics. You know, this was in the late '90s before Comedy Central was like the kind of had that Daily Show political
Yeah, yeah,
voice.
yeah.
So it was really more about comedy than it was about about social events, and it was a super fun show.
Yeah, he's way serious now.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it when it went to ABC. I did it a bunch of times, and it was always kind of fun. But there was, you would get these heated, like, oh, here's the head of the ACLU, and Rick Santorum, and they're going at each other, and it was just like, well, I can't say anything, boobs, and then
It's hard to get a word. I did that show just lately, the HBO one. And I got so nervous I couldn't even. Like I didn't know what to say the whole time I was on.
well, first of all,
It's
everyone
intimidating.
is loaded with facts in their head.
And they got these giant brains. They come out with these giant brains. And you're you're afraid to say.
They can't hold their heads up; they're tilted to the side a little
Yeah.
bit because they're fucking huge.
I'm
brains.
sorry, you're gonna have to edit this out because we're over the hour.
What is that? No, it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't have to be exactly an hour, but an hour is a pretty good time.
Yeah, for podcast.
Pretty good break.
so.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed your coffee while you had your breakfast. Listen to this podcast.
Yeah. On your treadmill,
during
getting ready
your
for your day with Drew Carey.
I hope the traffic is light on your
Hope the boss ain't giving you no more work you got to do.
Oh, he's a real hothead, ain't he?
Boy, he sure is riding my hump. That's something that people say at jobs.
Yeah.
Apparently. But Drew, thank you so much for letting us come to your house. I say thank you for being here, but we're actually in
problem.
your house, which is awesome. And
Thank God you have a hump to ride. That's what
yeah,
I
we
said.
got a hump. We got a hump. My dad hit on a hunchback once. P.S. It's a longer story, but my dad hit on
Really?
yeah. And she shot him down.
I thought we were still doing old jokes.
Wow.
No.
Yeah.
My
No,
dad hit
What
on
did the
a
hunchback do?
You know, sometimes truth is a little stranger than fiction, Matthew.
Wow, way to end the show.
My dad had a buddy, and his friend was like, I'm going out with this girl, and she's bringing a friend, her cousin, will you please? And my dad's like, sure. And they show up, and the first girl's really hot, and the second girl is literally a hunchback. So my dad's like, I'm dancing with her, and I just have my hand on the hump. I don't know where to put it. And he was like, and my dad kind of got a little drunk, so he was like, I tried to go for it. So he went to kiss her at the end of the date. And second of all, she was from Montreal, didn't speak any English. So a French hunchback shot my
foreign
dad
humpback.
down. Yeah, foreign. The worst kind of hunchback.
Well, when you're dancing with a hunchback, you have somewhere to put your drink. You know,
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
nice, so.
Well, that's what an American hunchback would have done. This is a goddamn
Put his
foreign
Budweiser right
hunchback.
on top.
And with that, we take it to the end of the show. The end.
She probably thought she was being taken advantage of or something.
You think so?
Yeah, like there's going to be some joke the next day. I don't blame her for not fucking your dad.
I blame her. I blame her for not fucking my dad.
Now leaving Nerdist.com.